And you'll notice that a number of the facial recognition partners, the cloud partners, don't even use it anymore and will not use it for things like law enforcement, because there was a propensity towards certain races and certain demographics, and that would show through. And it just gives you an idea that this has been out there for a long time.
So I only recently found out about hallucinations and that AI actually could produce them. Can you just quickly share with our audience what that is and how it happens?
Yeah, so it comes about from the term generative, okay? Generative AI and large language models. There is this term called 3 H's. So it's about being helpful. So we talk about being socially beneficial.
Welcome to Bots and Bytes, the ultimate tech talk podcast. Join us as we journey from the realm of AI to the boundless expanse of the cloud. We'll explore the cutting-edge technologies that are reshaping customer experiences and driving businesses to new heights. Prepare to be inspired, informed, and intrigued as we delve into the world of innovation and transformation. I'm your host, Jess Vigorito, and this is Bots and Bytes, a GTS production where tech dreams become reality. Let's dive in. What is customer sentiment analysis?
Yeah, so customer sentiment analysis is you want to be able to, if you look at reviews, so if you were to take Amazon, for example, you see Amazon and then you'll see a whole bunch of customer reviews, and some are 5-star, some are 1-star, and you have a whole set of them. Well, if a product is doing badly for some reason, you want to be able to know, because you want to either then go back to the manufacturer and say, hey, you need to make your product better because this is a constant problem. The thing is, think about how many hundreds of thousands or millions of products Amazon sells, okay? How are you going to look through every single review and every single customer review that's been pasted for that? And the way you do that is through custom sentiment analysis. Basically, what it will do is that it'll read through a passage and go, this is a positive, this is a neutral, this is a negative sentiment, right? You could even do things like being able to look for swear words and things like that, right? So basically that's what sentiment analysis will tell you, is that this is a positive, neutral, or negative sentiment that was sent. And as a result, then you can then go through and say, you know what, out of all of these, not based on the star system, but based off the actual verbiage in the comments, that there's a propensity towards negative sentiment for this product. And then you can go investigate further. So it basically saves time. People aren't having to read through it and find it. You're able to create some kind of threshold to say, hey, if it goes above a certain amount, alert me so that I can actually send someone to actually go take a look and see what needs to happen, or contact a manufacturer. From a contact center standpoint, that could be a review or the actual conversation that's coming through the contact center. Was their experience good? Was their experience bad? Was their experience neutral? Because you then convert that text, the speech, into text and be able to analyze it that way.
So it's taking data-informed decisions to the next level, really. It's looking at the entire data set as opposed to just little pieces of it.
Well, yes, it is for the entirety, but it's a holistic view of everything. It could be just like in the contact center example, it could be just, a bad set of experiences that came out across the board, right? You may want to deal with that differently than if it was centered around a particular person that was the agent, and every if there was a propensity towards negative sentiment for that agent's experience, then it may require retraining or intervention to be able to figure out what needs to be done to be able to correct that.
Okay, that's a great tool. Let's talk about AI regulations. We touched on this a little bit already globally. So AI regulations are evolving worldwide. What are some global trends and emerging regulations that businesses should be aware of when it comes to AI ethics and compliance?
Ooh, yes, there's that Russian doll again, right? So, yeah, so I would, it's interesting. So 31 countries, as of October last year, 31 countries have enacted some kind of regulation. For the most part, they are advisory. They're not necessarily compulsory. But to the example that you brought up, I knew that this question was coming, and I deliberately didn't talk about this example. But different countries have been looking at AI regulation in different lenses, and it's more cultural than, as you would most probably guess anyway, but it is very cultural. So, for example, China, their regulation basically says, are the regulations, they should fall in line with the culture and the basically what the government deems as being correct. Okay, and so basically culturally, right, they're going to rule in favor of things that we may deem as hate. Okay, remember we talked about the three H's? Something we may deem as hate, they may think as totally acceptable because it aligns with their broader ideals that they have for the country, right? So in general, I think that just know that regulations are coming. I don't think it's time to panic because the regulators' countries are well too aware. It's a double-edged sword. On the one side, you want to be able to protect, and you want to be able to you want people to feel safe using all these technologies, especially generative AI and large language models. On the other side, they don't want to put so much regulation in that they stifle development and all this sort of stuff because they're going to fall behind the other countries, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's such a fine balancing act. So what I will say is that a lot of it is going to stem around bias. A lot of it's going to stem around transparency. And then how much are you testing and evaluating to be able to, before you actually put this out and make it available to public? It's a very deep subject, Jess. You put out a chatbot to be able to find out, be able to interact with their patients. And one of their patients actually sent the chat script, a piece that they had sent. And basically they had asked the question, should I kill myself? And the answer back from the chatbot is, yes, you should. So it gives you an idea. And the thing was, is as soon as they found out, they took it down. The point was that what measures did they take to even make sure that that wouldn't be a scenario before they put it out there? You can't trust this sort of stuff implicitly. You have a responsibility.
Sure. That is alarming. Do you think globally regulations are coming, or do you feel this is going to be kind of country by country?
Country by country. It's not going to be global. And the reason being is that even if they did put global, you're going to have, different government groups that are going to just, ignore it, right? Mainly because the area of the body of work in this is so compelling, and it's just too alluring for them to want to stay away from it. So I think that you're going to have it country by country. You may have someone that tries to do it from a broader perspective, but it's going to be country by country. And that's kind of the reason why I don't think it's going to be totally restrictive type regulations, because they're worried that other countries are going to, run away into the lead, and this country will be left behind, or a country will be left behind as a result.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess I'm just thinking kind of like the web or the internet. There is no set of, that I know of, I could be wrong here. I don't think there's a set of global regulations. I think overall it's country by country. I know a lot of like web pages are restricted in some of the Middle Eastern countries, in China, and what they have access to. Versus in the US, we have access to a lot, but we do have the dark web even here, right?
Sure.
So that is case by case. If we're looking at AI, I think it's even a little bit more challenging, like you said, kind of the Russian doll conversation here, because we can think like, there's just me living in my house with my kids in the middle of Florida and everything's fine here, but I've got and the way I use AI is radically different than someone like a government official or someone who operates in the Department of Homeland Security would use AI. Yeah. And in which case they do have to keep kind of abreast of where our allies and our not allies are going with AI in terms of defense systems and just monitoring what's going on, right? It is an interesting kind of I don't want to say it's a war, but it's a tech race right now, maybe.
It is. And then, as processes and things become faster, there's going to be greater and greater capability. There's going to be greater and greater capability of this at the edge. There's a lot of work going on in that, of be able to use generative AI on a mobile device, be able to have it function, right there and then. And to your point, and the broader point I think here is that ChatGPT, generative AI, LLMs have made us have to answer questions that we didn't even know needed to be answered. For example, how are schools having to be tooled up to be able to find out whether a recent paper essay has been generated by ChatGPT versus actually created by someone, right? Mm-hmm. Who knew that needed to be a question that needed to be answered in 2020, right? Right. And the thing is that is you can apply that to the entire industries in general and society in general. So it does bring up some interesting questions, and some of these are more critical than others.
Right, 100%. Let's talk about responsible AI. We're touching on this already. It requires ongoing monitoring and adaptation. What strategies can organizations implement to ensure that their AI models remain ethical and accountable as they evolve?
Yeah, and that's a great question, Jess. But in general, all models go stale, right? The longer you just use it and don't train it or update it, they go stale, right? And let's take LLMs for instance, right? ChatGPT 3.5 had a specific cutoff date, so it didn't know anything newer than a specific date. Well, if I'm using it for something of current events for some reason, or talking about the history of someone, and 2 years later I happen to use ChatGPT 3.5, I shouldn't expect it to understand the last 2 years or whatever period of time that was of that information. These models become stale, and so basically what they do is that they evaluate the model. So we talk about Shapley numbers, Owen values, bias in data and data sets coming in. But apparently, what we really need to be able to do is be able to figure out what is relevant to you and what is stale to you. Because again, how you use the data and how you use these models is really pivotal. And then based off that construct, so for example, let's say I'm using ChatGPT, let's just say a large language model and generative AI, and I'm using it to calculate or forecast what I think the house prices are going to be. well, am I then going to be bothered? I certainly wanted to have the latest house prices or be able to put that in as context. But would I be as worried about the fact that it doesn't have, world events being populated in there, or other things pet related, or plants related, or whatever that information happens to be? So it is context, really. And then being able to figure out if your model is old, too old. And the only way you can do that is to be able to see the data coming in and compare it with the data that's coming out and saying, is this even appropriate? What has come out, is that old? Should there be a better answer? And then at that point, you reevaluate. So the concepts in AI would be model monitoring, is what they call that. And you would compare that to the data coming in and what the answers being produced out. And that's how you dictate whether a model needs to be trained or updated as a result.
That makes me think about, I have a paid subscription to ChatGPT, and I can kind of flip at the top between 3.5 and 4.0. Sometimes I'm on 3.5 and I don't notice that I'm on 3.5, and I ask it a question where I'm trying to reference hey, can you go check out this website and sum it up for me? And the answer it kicks out is, I don't have that capability.
Yeah.
And that always strikes me as odd. I'm like, why don't you know that you actually do have, or why isn't the answer, hey, I do have that capability, but you need to be on 4.0 for that. But the answer is strictly, I don't have that capability. And so I already see 3.5 going it is dating itself.
It is. It really is. And actually, the mechanisms they use in 3.5 is so much different than what they use in 4. They haven't talked about how much data they actually used to train up GPT-4, right? And there's speculation out there that they may have actually, and I even when I say this, I struggle to say this, that they may have run out of data to actually train up the model, right?
Wow.
Yeah, and it's crazy,
that's
right?
That's kind of mind-blowing just to even think about that.
Yeah, that basically all available data out there that's public domain, and I'm going to put quotes because there's been talk about the was it New York Times, and they managed to somehow find out that some of their data got used in that training and stuff like that. But if we were to ignore all of that, but basically all public data has been used and used up completely in training up this model, right? That's pretty impressive. So you get to figure out, if that's where GPT-4 is, what is 5 going to look like, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And you compare that to 3.5, and it's like, yeah, I'm not using 3.5 anymore then.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Well, there you have it, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another mind-blowing episode of Bots and Bytes. A very special thanks to our guest, Anant Mistry, for this insightful conversation about dealing with the challenges of responsible AI with Gen AI. Thank you so much, Anant, for sharing your knowledge and perspectives with all of us.
Thank you, Jess.
Thank you. Moving forward, how can businesses interested in reaching you or GTS's AI services and expertise get in touch and explore potential collaborations to enhance their customer experiences?
Yeah, just feel free to reach out, to go to the GTS webpage. We have, multiple ways of being able to get to us. We're always available. We'd love to be able to hear what your challenges are and how we're able to use our skills and our resources to help you on your AI/ML journey, because it is a journey.
Absolutely. To our listeners, I really appreciate you joining us on this enlightening journey. For future exciting discussions and expert guests, you can find GTS at globo-tek.com. I'm your host, Jess, signing off. Until next time, stay curious, stay tech savvy, and keep exploring limitless innovation and possibilities.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Bots and Bytes. To learn more about the topics discussed in this episode, reach out to us at hello@globo-tek.com.